Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another reading of the Bible. I'm going to try to do 3 chapters today, 6, 7, and 8 of 1 Kings. So here we go. It came to pass in the 480th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt. 408 years since the Exodus. Come out of the land of Egypt in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziph, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build up the house of the Lord. The house which King Solomon built for the Lord, the length thereof was 60, that's 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 20 cubits, and the height thereof 30 cubits. So 60 plus 20 is 80, plus 30, 80 plus 30, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I believe 110 cubits. The porch before the temple of the house, 20 cubits was the length thereof. Well, hey. 20 cubits thereof was the length according to the breadth of the house. And 10 cubits was the breadth thereof before the house. For the house he made windows of narrow lights. Against the wall of the house he built chambers round about, against the walls of the house round about, both of the temple and of the oracle, and he made chambers round about. The nethermost chamber was 5 cubits broad, and the middle was 6 cubits broad, and the third was 7 cubits broad, for outside in the wall of the house he made narrowed rests round about, that the beams should not be fastened in the walls of the house. The house, when it was in building, was built of stone, made ready where before it was brought thither, so that there was neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was in building. The door of the middle chamber was in the right side of the house, and they went up with winding stairs into the middle chamber, and out of the middle chamber, and out of the middle into the third. Into the middle chamber, out of the middle chamber into the third chamber. So he built the house and finished it, and covered the house with beams and boards of cedar. Then he built chambers against all the house, 5 cubits high, and the rested on the house with timber of cedar. The word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, Concerning this house which thou art in building, if thou wilt walk in my statutes and execute my judgments and keep all my commandments to walk in them, then will I perform my word with thee, which I spake unto David thy father. Excuse me. I will dwell among the house of Israel, and will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and finished it. He built the walls of the house within with boards of the cedar, both the floor of the house and the walls of the ceiling. That should be C-E-I, not C-I-E. There's a misspelling there. And he covered them on the inside with wood, and covered the floor of the house with planks of fir, F-I-R, fir. He built 20 cubits on the sides of the house, both the floor and the walls with boards of cedar. He even built them for it within. Even for the oracle, even for the most holy place. The house, that is, the temple before it, was 40 cubits long. The cedar of the house within, the cedar of the house within was carved with knops, K-N-O-P-S, knops, and open flowers, all with cedars. There was no stone seen. The oracle he prepared in the house within set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. The oracle in the four part was 20 cubits in length, 20 cubits in breadth, and 20 cubits in height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold, and so covered the altar, which was of cedar. So Solomon overlaid the house within with pure gold, and he made a partition by the change of gold before the oracle, and he overlaid it with gold. Okay, so the word oracle, verse 19, in other verses, verse 19, the word oracle means, we don't know. 19. The Hebrew word is debir. 6:5. Go back to chapter 6, verse 5. And debir here, the inner room. Okay, just the inner room of the temple. Okay, verse 22. The whole house he overlaid with gold. The whole house he overlaid with gold until he had finished all the house. Also the whole altar was that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold. Within the oracle he made 2 cherubims of olive tree. Oops. Sorry, I'm getting the ribbon here. 2 cherubims of olive tree, each 10 cubits high. 5 cubits was one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other of the cherub. With the uttermost part of the one wing unto the uttermost part of the other were 10 cubits. The other cherub was 10 cubits. Both the cherubs were of one measure and one size. Ay! Sorry. Adjust my hat here. Alright, there we go. Blah, blah, blah. 10 cubits, the cherubs. Okay, verse 26. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so it was of the other cherub. He set the cherubims within the inner house, and they stretched forth the wings of the cherubims, so that the wing of the one touched the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall, and their wings touched one another in the midst of the house. He overlaid the cherubims with gold. He carved all the walls of the house round about. He carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers within and outside, inside and outside. The floor of the house he overlaid with gold within and inside and out. For the entering of the oracle, the inner place, he made the doors of olive tree. The lintel and side posts were a fifth part of the wall. The 2 doors also were of olive tree, and he carved upon them carvings of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubims and upon the palm trees. Turn to the page. So also made he for the door of the temple posts of olive tree, a 4th part of the wall. The 2 doors were of fir tree. The 2 leaves of the one door was folding, and the 2 leaves of the other door were folding. He carved thereon cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and covered them with gold fitted with the carved work. He built the inner court with 3 rows of hewed stone. He built the inner court with 3 rows of hewed stone and a row of cedar beams. In the 4th year was the foundation of the house of the Lord laid, in the month of Ziph, or Ziph, I think it's pronounced Ziph. In the 11th year, in the month of Bul, B-U-L, which is the 8th month, was the house finished throughout all the parts thereof, and according to all the fashion of it, so was he 7 years. It took 7 years to build the house. All right. Come on. Hold on. I'm waiting for a van to move. Okay. Chapter 7. But Solomon was building his own house 13 years, and he finished all his house. He built also the house of the forge of Lebanon. The length thereof was 100 cubits, and the breadth thereof 50 cubits, and the height thereof 30 cubits, upon 4 rows of cedar pillars, with cedar beams upon the pillars. It was covered with cedar above upon the beams, that lay on 45 pillars, 15 in a row. There were windows in 3 rows, and light was against light in 3 ranks. All the doors and posts were square with the windows, and light was against light in 3 ranks. He made a porch of pillars, and the length thereof was 50 cubits, and the breadth thereof 30 cubits. The porch was before them. And the other pillars and the thick beam was before them. Then he made a porch for the throne, where he might judge, even the porch of judgment, and it was covered with cedar from one side of the floor to the other. His house where he dwelt had another court within the porch, which was of like work. Solomon made also a house for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken to wife, like unto his courts. All these were of costly stones, according to the measures of hewed stones, sawed with saws, within and inside and out, even from the foundation upon the coping, and so on the outside toward the great court. The foundation was of costly stones, even great stones, stones of 10 cubits, and stones of 8 cubits. Above were costly stones, after the measure of hewed stones and cedars. The great court round about was about 3 rows of hewed stones, and a row of cedar beams, both for the inner court of the house of the Lord, and for the porch of the house. King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. For he cast 2 pillars of brass of 18 cubits high apiece, and a line of 12 cubits did compass either of them about. He made 2 chapiters of molten brass to set upon the tops of the pillars. The height of the one chapiter was 5 cubits, and the height of the other chapiter was 5 cubits. The nets of checker work and wreaths of chain work for the chapiters, which were upon the top of the pillars, 7 for the one chapiter and 7 for the other chapiter. He made the pillars and 2 rows round about upon the one network to cover the chapiters that were on the top with pomegranates, and so did he for the other chapiter. The chapiters that were upon the top of the pillars were of lily work in the porch, 4 cubits, and the chapiters upon the 2 pillars had pomegranates also above, over against the belly which was by the network, and the pomegranates were 200 and rows round about upon the other chapiter. He set up the pillars in the porch of the temple, and he set up the right pillar and called the name thereof Yakin, and he set up the left pillar and called the name thereof Boaz. Upon the top of the pillars was lily work, so was the work of the pillars finished. He made a molten sea, 10 cubits, with one brim to the other. It was round all about. His height was 5 cubits, and the line of 30 cubits to compass it round about. Under the brim of it round about there were knops compassing it, 10 in a cubit, compassing the sea round about. The knops were cast in 2 rows when it was cast. It stood upon 12 oxen, 3 looking toward the north, 3 looking toward the west, 3 looking toward the south, 3 looking toward the east. And the sea was set above upon them, and all the hinder parts were inward. It was a handbreadth thick, and the brim thereof was wrought like the brim of a cup, with flowers of lilies. It contained 2,000 baths. He made 10 bases of brass, 4 cubits was the length of one base, and 4 cubits the breadth thereof, and 3 cubits the height of it. And the work of the bases was on this manner. They had borders, and the borders were between the ledges. On the borders that were between the ledges were lions, oxen, and cherubims. And upon the ledges there was a base above, and beneath the lions and oxen were certain additions made of thin work. Every base had 4 brazen wheels and plates of brass, and the 4 corners thereof had undersetters. Under the laver were undersetters molten at the side of every addition. The mouth of it within the chapiter was above, and above was a cubit, but the mouth thereof was round, round after the work of the base. A cubit and a half. Oh, jeez. And also the mouth of it were graven with their borders 4 square, not round. 4 square, not round. Under the borders were 4 wheels, and the axle trees of the wheels were joined to the base, and the height of the wheel was a cubit and a half a cubit. 1.5 cubits. The work of the wheels was like the work of a chariot wheel, their axle trees, and their naves, and their felloes, F-E-L-L-O-E-S, and their spokes, and all their were all molten. There were 4 undersetters to the 4 corners of one base, and the undersetters were the very base itself. In the top of the base was there a round compass and a half a cubit high. Excuse me. And on the top of the base, the ledges thereof and the borders. Man, stop the car, man. She's trying to read. And on top of the base, the ledges thereof and the borders thereof were of the same. For on the plates of the ledges thereof and on the borders thereof, he graved cherubims, lions, and palm trees, according to the proportion of every one, and additions round about. After this manner he made the 10 bases. All of them had 1 casting, 1 measure, and 1 size. Then made he 10 levers of brass. 1 laver contained 40 baths, and every laver was 4 cubits, and upon every one of the 10 bases 1 laver. He put 5 bases on the right side of the house and 5 on the left side of the house, and he set the sea on the right side of the house eastward over against the south. Hiram made the levers and the shovels and the basins. Hiram made an end of doing all the work that he made King Solomon for the house that he made King Solomon for the house of the Lord. 41. The 2 pillars and the 2 bowls of the chapiters that were on the top of the 2 pillars, and the 2 networks to cover the 2 bowls of the chapiters, which were upon the top of the pillars. The 2. Oh, great! This guy. 2 pillars with the 2 bowls of the chapiters that were on top of the 2 pillars, and the 2 networks to cover the 2 bowls of the chapiters, which were upon the top of the pillars. 400 pomegranates for the 2 networks, even 2 rows of pomegranates for 1 network to cover the 2 bowls of the chapiters that were upon the pillars. The 10 bases and the 10 lavers on the bases, 1 sea and 12 oxen under the sea. The pots and the shovels and the basins, all these vessels which Hiram made for King Solomon for the house of the Lord, were of bright brass. In the plain of Jordan did the king cast them, in the clay ground between Succoth and Zarthon. Solomon left all the vessels unweighed, because they were exceedingly great. Neither was the weight neither was the weight of the brass found out. Solomon made all the vessels that pertained unto the house of the Lord: the altar of gold, the table of gold, whereupon the showbread was, the candlesticks of pure gold, 5 on the right side, 5 on the left, before the oracle, with the flowers, the lamps, and the tongs of gold, the bowls and the snuffers, and the basins and the spoons and the censers of pure gold, and the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner house, the most holy place, and for the doors of the house, to wit, of the temple. So was ended all the work that King Solomon made for the house of the Lord. Solomon brought in the things which David his father had dedicated, even the silver, the gold, the vessels did he put among the treasures of the house of the Lord. Wow. Oh, chapter 8 is a long one. Jeez. I'm gonna save chapter 8 for another time. So we did chapter 6 and 7 today. Hope you enjoyed it.